Hey lady, welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie. I'm wife to James and mom to 5 beautiful kids, ages 9 down to 2 months, with 1 miscarried baby. It is my hope to help other women experience postpartum as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 59. Hi lady, I hope you are so well and having the very best Wednesday. Let's talk briefly about free things. Tonight, we enjoyed a free meal brought to us by a local restaurant, by which I mean we ate at the restaurant. We ate outside. My parents treated us, and that was super kind, and it was delicious. We had no dishes to clean up after and no prep to do. All we had to do was just sit down. The other free thing that was really great this week was going to the library for 2 hours yesterday to play. Now you might say, Anne Marie, the library is always free. Well, yes, it is. And part of the point of talking about free things, right, as you may recall, is to increase our gratitude and awareness of the things in our life that are already good, already available for us to take advantage of and be appreciative of. The library and the meal out this week were our free things of featured note. This week I wanted to talk about my Postpartum Nutrition Consult through Faye. Now, if you have Instagram and your algorithm is anything like mine, chances are very high that you have seen not one, not two, but approximately 18,000 advertisements for Faye, including for PCOS, which is interesting. I don't actually have PCOS, but I continue to get these advertisements for Faye for PCOS. But I am also getting them for postpartum. And I decided, what the heck? It said it would cost probably through insurance $0 to $8, that the vast majority of people pay that amount out of pocket, which if it's $0, I can definitely handle that. And it's going to be $0 either way because I have already met my out-of-pocket max through insurance because of the birth of Cecilia. And as you know, if it's a free thing, I'm all about it. Plus, I really wanted to see what it was like so that I could tell you about it and whether I thought it was something worth trying. Here's the lowdown on it. You go to the Faye website and you type in your insurance information. And the first time it asked me to do that, I actually just clicked out of the website because I don't want to put my insurance information in there. I don't know where it's going. Now, I did let that go eventually, and some people might just be stopped right there and say, no, I'm not going to put my insurance information in. The reason they ask you to do that is so they can check your eligibility. Faye Nutrition is technically medical nutrition therapy. And my understanding is that with the Affordable Care Act, I believe, medical nutrition therapy has to be covered by most insurance plans. It's supposed to be very easy. You go to the website, you put in your insurance information, and then they tell you whether you would have coverage or not. Like I said, the very first time I went to the website, I just clicked back out because I just got skittish about it. A second time, which is maybe a week or two later, I did type it in. It brought back that it was supposed to be free. I looked through the website because they have a directory and you're supposed to be able to search by specialty. But here's something I thought was a little bit odd. Many of the people in the directory, and by people I mean registered dietitians, licensed registered dietitians, RDs, many of them supposedly specialized in 15 or 20 different things. Now, you know as well as I, lady, nobody specializes in 15 or 20 things. I was therefore less inclined to trust somebody who had postpartum as one of their specialties listed. If there were 14 or 19 other specialties listed at the same time, I ended up choosing to work with a nutritionist who had maybe 4 or 5, which to my thinking is still a lot of areas of specialty. However, I was much more comfortable with that than I was with the very much larger numbers. And I ended up telling the nutritionist that actually during my appointment, just as a side note, that was part of how I chose her, because I believed it more likely that she would have some specialized knowledge in that area if she wasn't claiming to be a specialist in, relatively speaking, everything. I booked the appointment. I got the email reminder, and I think I got a text reminder too ahead of time. And the initial appointment is scheduled for 90 minutes, which I thought was a very generous time frame. When I logged on, it was just I can't remember if it was Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever, but they send you a link, and I logged on, and the lady was very friendly, and it went kind of as you would expect. She asked me to describe a typical day of eating and maybe kind of a typical week, what my lunches, breakfast, meals might look like. She asked me a little bit about my birth and how many children I had had. I think we talked about whether I took any supplements, medications, prenatals, that sort of thing, and what brand they were. And then she asked me essentially to share with her any pain points that I had that I wanted to address specifically. So at that point, that would be us discussing my goals. It took quite a while for me to get through all of that because this is a real shock to you, I'm sure. I'm not a short-winded lady. But when we got through all of that, she essentially made her recommendation. She said the most important thing for a woman who is breastfeeding and postpartum is getting enough calories, both so that you can heal from the labor and birth process, plus replenish everything that you gave to the baby over the course of pregnancy, and then also to continue moving forward to nourish your baby. So both the healing aspect and then also making sure that you yourself are not getting nutritionally depleted. She asked me what I wanted help with, and I said, honestly, I would just love any, not hacks per se, but I would love to know how you eat as a nutritionist, what sources you recommend I look up for information. Who do you pay attention to? Who do you consider reputable in the nutrition world? And she did send me, after our conversation, a bunch of links. And I also told her I would specifically love any snacks that were healthier because I have a great sweet tooth. Great might not be the right adjective. By great, I don't mean really good. I mean large. I have a large sweet tooth. And true to her word, she sent me 4 different recipes, like I said, after the meeting for energy balls or energy bites. And I made all 4 of them. They were part of our celebration weekend we had when Cecilia was baptized. We had some relatives and friends come in the day before. We did a picnic, park, splash pad, play date. And I made all these energy balls to be a sweet-ish treat, not technically dessert, after we ate our picnic together. We got kind of crowd pleaser feedback on 2 of them. The other 2 were fine, but would not prefer. All that said, she sent me 4 recipes for that. She sent me several websites, even a couple of book recommendations. That was all great. She did not say things to me like, you must eat organic, grass-fed, foods. She didn't say that. And then she also didn't encourage me to eat very complicated foods. And by that, I mean that if I were to look in a magazine, even a Food Network magazine, generally a lot of the dishes will have all sorts of flavors and things mixed in, kind of like a salad where you would put in greens, fruits, veggies, but I'm talking that with a rice dish, for example. So the rice dish that might have meat mixed in or noodles, like lots of different foods in one dish. And just to be frank with you, my children don't eat a lot of that super well. Most of them will eat fruits and veggies, but not necessarily a bunch of veggies mixed together in one dish. Generally, we'll do steamed Brussels sprouts, but it's just the Brussels sprouts and they're seasoned. It's not going to be them as part of a larger dish, so to speak. And to her credit, she listened when I said that we ate very plainly, with good seasoning, but very plainly in terms of these are the apples, these are the blueberries, these are the broccoli pieces, that sort of a thing. And so she didn't send me things that were not going to be of interest to me. The energy bites were exactly what I asked for because I wanted something that was packed with nutrition, relatively speaking, and the things that she sent me included seeds, nuts, nut butters, chocolate chips for a little bit of sweetness. All of that was good. All of that was exactly what I asked for. The experience of working with that nutritionist, I would say, was definitely worth an initial consult. Neither she nor I thought that it was necessary for me to continue meeting with her. I could see where I would have worked, where it would make sense for me to work with a postpartum nutritionist specifically if, for instance, I needed to give up dairy for 6 months and was trying to navigate how to get my nutritional requirements met, such as calcium and vitamin D. Those are the 2 first nutrients that come into mind when you're thinking about vitamin D. If I were in a situation like that, or if I were trying to cut out all gluten or all fill in the blank, that I think would make sense to have an ongoing relationship. But in this case, just that one meeting with her to say, here's what I'm eating. How does that sound to you? And for the most part, she gave it a big thumbs up. And then when I asked, hey, could you help me figure out these energy bites for snacks to have healthy snacks and to help curb that sweet tooth, she delivered on that. That was terrific. After looking back or outside of that, I would say I did do a quick Google search to see what do other people think of Fae nutrition. And of course, this is not a sponsored post. This is just something that I clicked over and signed up for because I wanted to see how it was. And I also wanted to be able to tell you. But here's what I found. There is a fair amount of to do on a Reddit post, a couple of Reddit posts actually, with people saying things like, I wanted to remove my credit card information from the Fae website because you do have to include your credit card information to book the consult, even though if your insurance covers it, they are not going to charge you. That's the policy. But you still require a credit card to reserve. And that doesn't bother me too much because I am familiar with other websites or services where even if the service is free, it's essentially you promising that you're going to show up for that website, or for that meeting because, right, you've put your website or your, why can't I get that word website out of my head? You have put your credit card information in, so you are motivated to show up, not to ghost them, be a no-show. That made sense to me. I didn't have a problem with putting my credit card information in. But what I was seeing on this Reddit post was saying that if you want to remove your information, it was very difficult to do that. And I also saw some people saying that they had been charged very large amounts of money for subsequent sessions. I didn't see anybody mentioning this for the consult, that initial consultation. But I did see several people saying that they had been erroneously charged and had a difficult time getting a refund, or something went wrong with insurance that they didn't end up covering it after all. And I've also seen on the nutritionist side or the registered dietitian side that some of their practices and their relationship with their dietitian seem a little maybe not great. Maybe not great. I am not saying do try Fae Nutrition, and I'm not saying don't try Fae Nutrition. The point that I wanted to get at ultimately is this. Is this an area that is important for you personally to look into postpartum? Way back in the beginning of this podcast, I talked a lot. I talk a lot less now, but I talked a lot about the book, The Lazy Genius Way by Kendra Adachi. Part of the magic, I think, of her content is helping to establish what your actual priorities are. And she encourages asking 3 questions to do that. One would be, what could matter to me? The second would be, what does matter to me? And the third would be, what matters most? This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially given, as I mentioned last week, I think I might have mentioned several episodes previous to this one, Cecilia has had some feeding and some weight gain difficulties. She is just on the low end of normal. The lactation consultant's coming back tomorrow, so she'll have another weight check. This will be our 3rd meeting with her. That is a major priority for me right now. It's taking a fair amount of energy. It's taking a fair amount of time. And some of that energy and time is going towards resisting the temptation to worry excessively about the situation. It's worth addressing, it's worth paying attention to, but it's not helpful to me to worry about it. And I don't think at this point it warrants major concern anyway. It's something I've not dealt with before, so it feels a little extra uncomfortable to me. But we don't have evidence that there is anything concerning at this point. Just we're paying attention, seeing kind of how things go with some different interventions that we're trying. All of that simply to say, right now I am filtering things through this 3-step process. What could matter to me in the course of a day? Things will pop into my head. Do I want to make a priority out of this? Do I want to spend time or mental energy on this? Then what does matter? And then what matters most? And I'm just going to give you an example from a little list that I have begun in the very back of a notebook, and things that could matter to me in this season, because she talks about in the season that you're in. The season I am in is postpartum. I wrote finding nursing bras that fit. That could matter to me. Optimizing my nutrition. So not just saying, are you getting decent nutrition and Are there any gaping major uh, areas of lack in your nutrition, but optimizing it? Like, let's make you the healthiest you could be. Losing the baby weight, getting my daughter to American Heritage Girl Club meetings. Those are just a few examples of things. Those things could matter in this season. But what does matter to me is making sure the house continues to function, our laundry, our dishes, our meals are getting planned, our children are doing their chores, we are keeping things as harmonious as we can. And the good news is we are starting to see progress on that front. I am so grateful. And some of it actually came from getting more, not less chores for our big kids. I thought they were doing a fair amount before, but there's a really beautiful line that I read in the Summa Domestica book 1 recently that said essentially some family unity comes from the children being a little just tired enough from their chores that they're not that interested in fighting, that they don't have lots of excess energy to fight because they've done enough chores. And I have truly found that to be spot on recently. But as that's all an aside, simply to say those things are my priority. What matters most to me right now, since I am the only one who feeds Cecilia, what matters most to me right now is making sure that she is getting what she needs in terms of nutrition and acceptable weight gain. So that's what matters most to me right now. Things that matter after that, like I said, the house, my family, trying to make sure we get enough sleep, going on monthly dates with James, taking my daughter to occupational therapy. She's doing really outside the box occupational therapy for ADHD symptoms. That just started 2 weeks ago. And then, figuring out this feeding and pelvic floor physical therapy for me. But prioritizing all of those things and even ranking the top couple, right? The things that I do not move in my calendar, and I don't move them for other things. Like, these things are happening. Those are the top priorities. I'm not moving those things. But other things that could matter to me, and hopefully when I have more energy, I would love to find nursing bras that fit and don't ride up in the back. I would love to find that. I would like to find a few more postpartum pieces that fit me now and that aren't a little awkward because they're maternity clothes that I'm continuing to wear even though there's no baby in my belly anymore, right? Those things matter somewhat to me, but they are not my top priority. And so this is how I'm filtering things through in a time that is quite demanding in terms of energy in particular and time, but I would say most of all demanding of energy, being pulled in lots of different directions. And this is not unique to me. I know you are this way too. Ask yourself, is postpartum nutrition, is that something that is most important to me right now? What tier would you say that fits in? Something that could matter to you, something that does matter to you, but maybe doesn't matter the most, or something that matters quite a lot. As I said earlier, I think that it would probably be in the very top tier category, matters most to me right now, if I were in a specific type of situation. I don't know where you are, and I'm not trying to push you in any particular direction. I'm simply saying this is one aspect of the postpartum experience that will be different in level of importance for everybody. And I would simply invite you to consider, is this important for you? And frankly, in lots of areas, as things come up in the course of your day, especially if you're very early on postpartum, like relatively speaking, I still am. My daughter's 2.5 months old. There's still not a ton of sleep happening, certainly not consistently. I had plans to film this earlier today because I realized that the last couple episodes, some of my thoughts are not flowing out as clearly as I would love them to be, or even as I imagine them to be as I am speaking. And I had hoped to film this earlier in the day to avoid some of that. And then life happened and that just didn't work out. Wherever you are today, I would just invite you to use that framework. What could matter to me? What does matter to me? And then what matters most? I'll talk to you next time.